Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books, and today we're talking about the Snyderverse. Well, fans have a pretty cool idea. DCU fans petition for Netflix to save the Snyderverse. How would they do this? The idea would be if Netflix would just kindly write a check and buy the Snyderverse, or the rights to the Snyderverse, they could then save the Snyderverse, and it could be on Netflix. That's the plan, basically. Not complicated. It takes a little bit of money. I don't think it's realistic that Warner Brothers Discovery would go for that. But, of course, you have to give the Snyderverse fans credit for passionately pursuing every possible idea to keep what they love. So let's get into this article from Screen Rant. Before we do, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell for notifications, give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. DC fans are petitioning for Netflix to save the Snyderverse, getting the hashtag #SellSnyderverse to Netflix trending on Twitter for the former DCU. Fans of the DC Universe are petitioning for Netflix to save the Snyderverse from Warner Bros. Discovery, obviously. Initially known as the DC Extended Universe, director Zack Snyder helmed the first wave of DC films, including Man of Steel, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, and Justice League. With an established cinematic universe of DC heroes that included Henry Cavill's Superman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and Jason Momoa's Aquaman, the so-called Snyderverse was met with mixed reviews, but was generally well received by DC fans. However, it was announced in October that James Gunn and Peter Safran would become the heads of DC Studios, and in December, significant changes were announced for the DCU, namely that Cavill would not be returning as Superman, even though we were understanding in October that he would be, despite his cameo appearance at the end of Black Adam, which had just been released only in October. With the era of Snyderverse seemingly over, DC fans are petitioning to have Netflix save Snyder's vision. The hashtag #SellSnyderverse to Netflix is currently trending on Twitter with over 12.9 thousand tweets at the time of writing, and Sell ZSJL to Netflix has over 18,000 tweets. These newest hashtags come in the wake of similar campaigns on Twitter, including Gunn and Safran out, Fire James Gunn and Peter Safran, and Boycott Warner Brothers. Okay, so sell Snyderverse to Netflix. Can you imagine the possibilities? Sell Snyderverse to Netflix. Numbers don't lie. Sell Snyderverse to Netflix. It would be incredible if Netflix was able to purchase the rights and continued the Snyderverse. Everything we know about the DCU's future. Though Gunn and Safran have not revealed their entire plan for the DCU yet, Gunn has confirmed a few specific changes. Gunn has effectively stated that the DCU would be looking to the future, focusing on new projects rather than reviving old ones or continuing on with projects in production limbo. That is necessary if they're going to do a 10-year plan to do reboots, and I've covered this in videos before. A lot of people in the comments agree with that. It's just the way that Gunn has been communicating about everything that is just so confusing, disappointing, and makes you not want to care about the characters. And one thing Gunn is doing, and somebody mentioned this in comments, maybe Gunn is doing it deliberately so that at least all the fans are upset and confused all in the same way. And then if he's got some great product, maybe he can impress everyone. I don't know. Tell me what you think of that in the comments below. Is Gunn doing this deliberately, or is this just Gunn being Gunn? In December, Gunn also confirmed that Batman would continue to be a major character in the DCU, but it's unlikely that Matt Reeves' iteration of the character, as played by Robert Pattinson in The Batman, will continue into the expanded universe. In regards to the upcoming film The Flash, which is set to star Ezra Miller in the title role, despite their many controversies and legal issues, there being the pronoun that Ezra Miller likes to go by, one might also say his controversies and legal issues, just to comprehend what they're even talking about in this article. Warner Brothers recently said that they being Warner Brothers, not Ezra Miller, amenable to continuing with the actor, meaning that Miller may be one of the few Justice League members not to be recast. And as I like to say, until you see one of the actors, this even includes Ray Fisher, until you see one of the actors say, yeah, well, I'm not working on DC projects anymore, we have no idea what's going on with them. And most likely, there's a potential they are working with DC on projects, because James Gunn likes to run his studio such that all important announcements are either made in an offhand way on Twitter, or are made by the actual actors themselves. This movie has similarly sparked an outcry on Twitter, many of whom are criticizing the DCU for keeping Miller's Flash while nixing Cavill's Superman. The news of Cavill's departure from the franchise is one of the most controversial moves that Gunn and Safran have made thus far, though according to a recent report, the search for Cavill's replacement began as early as 2018, before Gunn even got there. Though Netflix has not responded to the trending hashtag yet, DC fans continue to show their support for the idea of the Snyderverse continuing on another platform. As many users pointed out, the Snyderverse has some very high-grossing films, and purchasing the Snyderverse could mean massive profits for the streaming service. However, with all the changes the DCU is currently undergoing under Gunn and Safran, it's unlikely that the duo will want to split the DC film universe into two. It's more than unlikely, it's pretty much impossible. I mean, you can tell me what you think in the comments below if you think there's any chance Warner Bros. Discovery would go ahead and sell the rights to the Snyderverse and those groups of characters maybe as its own separate group, like they're doing with the Batman, with the Matt Reeves films. Theoretically, they could create another whole group of characters. I can't see them doing that. I think the only reason they have the Matt Reeves thing going on is because he already established so much success. Similarly, with Todd Phillips with the Joker, like there's already so much established success. Though one could make the argument that the Zack Snyder films were pretty successful. And if they don't need Henry Cavill anymore, maybe Netflix could utilize him as Superman in a new revived Snyderverse. The more I see this idea, and I'm not obsessed with the Snyderverse or anything like that, but actually now as I'm kind of going through it, as absurd as it sounds, the wackiness from James Gunn, this could happen tomorrow as far as I'm concerned. Saying that, we've made an agreement with Netflix that they're going to pick up the Snyderverse titles, the older ones and the new ones, and we're going to take it in as part of a 5-year plan. It's impossible, but yet it's still possible because things are just so crazy over at James Gunn's DCU. Speaking of crazy, this is another story. Avatar ticket sales breathe life into Disney's blockbuster machine. James Cameron's sci-fi epic nears break-even point for a studio looking to update its list of franchises. Avatar: The Way of Water has grossed more than $1.7 billion at the global box office as of today. That is very impressive. The break-even for Avatar, Cameron originally had implied it was $2 billion theatrical. Then he was claiming it was really closer to $1.5 billion theatrical. It's profitable. It's going to make money. It's making money. They'll clear at least $1 billion in profit. When everything is said and done, maybe $1.5 billion to even $2 billion. Not just from movie theaters, but from all the other sales and distribution. The movie's haul at the weekend makes The Way of Water the 7th highest grossing film of all time, ahead of Jurassic World. The original Avatar, released in 2009, remains the top moneymaker in cinema history with $2.9 billion in total worldwide grosses. Paul DeGagarian, senior analyst at ComScore, said the film appeared to have further to run and could gross $2 billion. It will. That Avatar still tops the box office in its 4th week is really impressive, he said. This thing is not slowing down at all. It is slowing down a little bit. The weekend performance means that expensive sci-fi film is closing in on profitability for Disney, analysts say, meaning director Cameron is likely to get the green light for his plans to release 3 more installments of the series. Well, we already know Avatar 3 is completely done. It just needs to be edited after they finish the visual effects, which is not trivial, but it's definitely coming out. If this movie had grossed $1 billion in total, Avatar 2, we'd still be seeing Avatar 3. There's no question of that. But they're likely to do the additional Avatar movies at this point. The Avatar franchise came to Disney through the 2019 acquisition of 20th Century Fox from Rupert Murdoch for $71 billion, a deal whose value to Disney has been questioned recently by some analysts. It was the capstone transaction for Disney chief executive Bob Iger, who returned to the company in late November following the ouster of successor Bob Chapek. Now, as Iger plots a new strategy for Disney, some on Wall Street say a top priority needs to be to reinvigorate its film studios, particularly Pixar, Disney Animation, and Lucasfilm. Rich Greenfeld, an analyst at LightShed Partners, said the drive to create new content for Disney Plus streaming service had put a severe strain on its studios. Consistent hit makers such as Lucasfilm Star Wars and Marvel home box office heroes such as Spider-Man and the Avengers feel increasingly tired from overuse. Well, Star Wars was failing before they did a lot of resources and a lot of projects for streaming. And it's not overuse. It's just the poor use. It's the poor implementation of these. That's one thing with James Cameron. If you go see Avatar 2: Way of Water, it's going to be exactly the way you expected it was going to be. There's no cutesy-wootsy subversion of expectations. And doing that with all of the other Disney properties, you can't do that to Avatar because he's James freaking Cameron. You can't touch his content apparently. But you can with every other brand they have. That's the difference. So all these analysts discuss this and they say, oh, you know, and the market, it's changed and there's too many Marvel films and they need to have less shows. And it's not the streaming. It's not the weather. It's not people not wanting to go back to movie theaters. Avatar 2 has proven that. Even Megan has proven that. They still won't acknowledge, they still won't mention, like, you know what? Subverting fans' expectations for your own political, ideological desires is not going to make for successful content. But in the one big project that they don't do that, in the one big project where you know what you think the movie is going to be, like Avatar, and it actually delivers on that, it's actually successful, it makes money, and it shows you there's life in the franchise. You would think they would figure this out by now. But tell me what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think, as crazy as it sounds, it is kind of possible they might do a deal with Netflix? It sounds ridiculous, but Warner Bros. Discovery has been doing deals for its content on other platforms. We've heard there's going to be animation deals with Amazon for Warner Brothers animation with DC titles, supposedly. So that's still forthcoming. So why not do a deal for the Snyderverse with Netflix? Let me know if you think that's possible. It shouldn't be possible, but in the world of James Gunn, anything is possible. And also, do you find it surprising that the only project where they didn't subvert expectations, Avatar, is the only one that's actually a viable franchise that no one's going to question whether or not Avatar 2 or Avatar 3 is actually going to make a profit? I don't think you could be too surprised with that, but let me know in the comments below. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel, click the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.